Hi, everyone. My name is Maureen Fitzpatrick. I'm a Human Resources Business Partner from Lowell General Hospital. Today I'm joined by a number of area employers to talk about the upcoming job fair being held at Lowell High on Thursday, April 26th from 3 to 5 p.m. Today we're really going to focus on a number of tips that you as job seekers can use during the job search process and also as well after you've been hired by a specific employer. So what I would say, first of all, is that the job search process starts with the application process. Every step along the way is your opportunity to shine as a candidate. And so that, again, would start with the job application. Every employer, as you know, has different ways of applying for positions. So you do, as an applicant, want to make sure that you cover two specific areas. And number one, that would be to be prepared. And the second, during the application process, would be to be detail-oriented. So some employers do require or offer the opportunity to apply online, others accept paper applications, and then others resumes. So it is important for you as a job seeker just to make sure that you're familiar with the company's application process. As you're completing the application, it's always good to take a pause at first and then really just look at the application to make sure that you understand the information that's being required. A lot of the information is basic, so you do want to be prepared in terms of providing your demographic information, social security number, dates of employment. Make sure that you do have the correct dates, job title, job duties, educational information. Most applications will require references. It is always a good idea to contact your references in advance to make sure that you have permission from your references to use them. Make sure that you have accurate telephone numbers for the references as well as email addresses, because some employers will contact references by email. In terms of the application itself too, it's important to make sure that everything is neat and legible. So make sure that this is a product of you as a candidate. So you do want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, because this really does demonstrate the quality of the work that you would have to offer as an employee. If you've had kind of maybe a less than favorable employment experience at some point, make sure that you frame everything in a professional manner too, so that again, that you present yourself as the best candidate. Some employers will actually require or just offer the opportunity to apply in person. And so just remember that as an applicant, when you're doing that, that's really when that interview process starts, and all eyes are on you. So you do want to make sure that when you're applying, that you do so in a professional manner. Don't bring friends or family members with you during that time, because again, you know, all the eyes and ears are there as you're applying for a position as well, and you do want to make sure that you present yourself as the best candidate for the position. It is also important to keep in mind that as you're applying for a position, be aware of the hours that you're available, and then also the schedule, so that is a good match for the position that you are applying for. And so Kelly is going to talk to us a little bit about the interview process.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Kelly Davidson, and I am the Vice President of Human Resources at Aligned Credit Union in Lowell, where I've been for the past 22 years. Today I'm going to give you some tips on the interview process, give you some sample questions that will help you better prepare when you're meeting with a potential employer. The most important thing to remember is that this is your time to shine. You want to show the best version of you. So the better you prepare ahead of time, the better you'll come off during the interview process. The types of questions that I tend to ask, and many employers tend to ask, are what are called open-ended questions. That means that it's not just simply a yes or no answer. You need to have some dialogue with the person that's interviewing you. You have to be prepared and have examples of the different situations that they're going to talk to you about or ask you about. I'm going to go through a couple examples of some questions that could better prepare you for your interview. Here's the first one. Can you tell me about yourself? This should be something that's easy for some of us, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult. So you want to have some examples of what you could tell somebody, and usually under a minute. Again, creating the best picture of yourself, the best version. You should be concise and to the point. Some suggestions to keep in mind would be to talk about a couple of your strengths, your prior work experience, and any particular skills that are important to the position that you're actually interviewing for. Some words that you could use, I would suggest, would be things like dependable, reliable. Are you able to multitask? Are you a great problem solver? Something that is helpful in a working environment. Are you able to mitigate conflict? Are you accurate? Are you precise? Things that I like to hear about when I'm interviewing somebody, a fun fact, something that makes you unique and makes yourself stand out so that you, during the interview process, you're one of many applicants usually. So you want them to remember you. It could be something like an award that you've received or an achievement that you've obtained, or it could be a volunteer initiative that you particularly like to participate in from year to year. Another question could be, why do you want to work here? Seems basic enough, but when asked that question, you want to be ready for it. This is where doing some prep work comes in handy. It's valuable to look at the company's website ahead of time to find out what are their mission, their vision, their values, what is their history, because then you can better, when you're interviewing for the particular position that you're looking for, you can kind of talk about things, it shows that you're prepared, that you've done the history, you've looked at the website, and you can hopefully correlate some of your aspirations and values to what the company is looking for. Another question, what are your goals? Seems pretty deep to me sometimes, but do you want to go to college? Do you want to be president of a company someday? Are you interested in joining the military? These little tidbits give the interviewer a little bit of insight into the type of person you are. They'll find out if it's a person that would lend themselves, just because you're interviewing for a basic position, there might be some growth potential. Again, I've been at Align Credit Union for 22 years. When I started there as a teller, who would have known that I would be there 22 years later? Why should we hire you? Again, this is your time to shine. When asked why we should hire you in an interview, the best way for an applicant to respond is to summarize your accomplishments, to tie those to the needs of the company and the position that you're actually interviewing for, and relate them to what makes you unique. How do you stand out? Another question, how would your teacher describe you? Would they say that you're a caring friend, you're a kind person to always look out and lend a hand to somebody? Would they say that you're a natural-born leader? Would they say that you're extremely accurate and precise? That would lend itself in a financial environment for sure. Again, these little tidbits give the interviewer more insight into the type of candidate that you actually are and the potential employee that you could be. How about, tell me about a time that you had a problem and how did you go about solving it? Have you ever had a difficult homework assignment that you didn't understand at first and then you figured it out? Describe to the interviewer how you handled that. Have your friends ever had a disagreement and you needed to be the voice of reason and help them to resolve conflict? Then you might have a perfect career in human resources. Have you ever had a situation that you needed to multitask in to complete an assignment? Employers love hearing these types of examples. How about the question, are you a team player? Don't just say yes, have an example ready for how you are a team player. Examples of this, have you ever worked on a project in class? How did it go? Have you played on a team sport growing up? Most employers are looking for people that can work well with others and would probably tell you that the success of a company is based on the sum of all of its parts, not just on the individuals. One of the most important pieces of advice I would give you would be to answer questions honestly and positively as possible. Demonstrate to your interviewer that you are an honest and hardworking individual. Sell yourself. They should be seeing the best version of you. So you've just had your interview. Now what? As you close your interview, here's a couple tips on things to remember to do. Leave your interviewer with the best picture of you. Remember, they should be seeing your best version of you. Bring your A game that day. Confirm your interest in the job. By this point, your interest should show in the questions that you're asking, the research you've done, the prep work you've done ahead of time, and your responses to all the questions the interviewer has asked. But it doesn't hurt just to tell them one more time that you have an interest in this position and working for their company. This is important. Ask about the next steps in the process. This can be a little vague, so make sure that you ask just so that you're not left wondering, if you haven't heard back from the company in a few days. It's a nice idea to get an idea of what the process is, how long it should be. Ask them if they mind you checking in with them in a couple days. I always give my business card out when I'm interviewing somebody. Feel free to ask the interviewer if you could have a business card and if they wouldn't mind you checking in with them either by phone or by email. It's always good to ask what they prefer, whether to be called or to be emailed. Lastly, very important, remember to shake their hand when you're leaving for the day. Thank them for the opportunity and tell them again that you're excited about the opportunity to work for their company and that you've enjoyed meeting with them. All right, and now Kathy is going to speak additional things about interviewing.
Thank you, Kelly. Everything that you pointed out is extremely important. And I'm here today. My name is Kathleen Bligh, and I am the Chief Financial Officer with the Tewksbury Country Club. And I have been in that position for almost 30 years. So not in that exact position, but grown through the company. And I am here today to tell you a little bit more about things I would love you to remember while you're in the interview. And coupled with what Kelly had mentioned, I wanted to make sure you knew it sounds a little not that important, but practicing your handshake is going to be one of those things we would love you to practice at home with your brother, your sister, your friend, your parents. This is important, and it's one of those things that it's your first impression when you show up at the job interview. To have your hand free, ready to go, and to shake that person's hand is important, and you should give it some additional thought. The first thing, be on time. There is nothing that's more frustrating than an employer to have you be late. You're indicating to them that their time isn't that important. It is their time. They're busy. We're in these positions. We're here to find the best candidate for the job, and you need to be on time. Be a little early, not 30 minutes early, 10 minutes early, and just wait for your turn to be present. Be calm. Okay, this takes a little practicing too. Have some fun. Be prepared. The calmer you are, the more prepared you are, the calmer you will be in the interview process. So do your homework. That's going to be extremely important. Smile. So smiling and making eye contact during this whole process is really an indication to me that you're interested in talking to me. So that's important. I know it's scary. Be a little, try to calm yourself down. Remember to smile and look at the person when you're talking to them. Having a positive attitude, being friendly, polite, and patient are all good things. The patience part of this is important to me because sometimes you need to pause a little bit. As we're talking, you're going to have interaction back and forth with the employer, and just being a little bit patient with that will allow you to listen to what they're saying to you so that you can answer the question, if they're asking you a question, correctly. So just don't be so anxious to jump right in and say everything that you want to say. Allow there to be some type of conversation back and forth. As you're standing there with your employer, some things that are real important is you're entering into a room, you don't really know where they're going to sit, and it would be nice for you to just wait until you're told where to sit. Someone will come in, they'll have some conversation with you, you will at that point in time be directed as to where they're going to be sitting and where you should have that seat. Sit down, make yourself comfortable, and then the interview process will start. Most important thing is be yourself. We will meet a lot of employees or candidates for employment, and we will meet them, and they're all a little bit different. And something comes out when you're yourself and you're honest and clear what you're looking for. So I think if you can try your best to be, if you're preparing a resume, some people will just fill out an application. Everything's going to be a little bit different depending on which job you're going for. So if you're filling out an application, be honest with those items that you're going to put down on that application, because when it comes time to be questioned about them, you're going to need to feel confident that it is actually you. So please do that. If it's a resume that you're preparing, make sure the information on the resume is accurate, and it actually is a good representative of yourself. And watch your manners, okay? So this is one of those things where you're talking, be polite like you would, you need to be respectful. So like you would be talking to, I guess in perspective, a family member, or your grandparents, or an aunt or an uncle, or just someone, not your buddy, okay? No slang words. That would be extremely helpful in my opinion. Just talk like you want the job. There are some other things that I wanted to go over that are real important, that not so much what you're doing in the job interview, but as you're getting yourself ready, you need to adjust your attitude. Your body language is going to be speaking to them, so make sure you're dressing professionally, and you're using, I guess here I am talking with my hands here, but think about how you would like to sit in a chair, cross your legs. Think about your body language as you're entering that interview. Stay away from negative conversation, and for God's sakes, please no chewing gum, candy, nothing in your mouth. Please have your cell phones turned off and tucked away. You don't need to be holding them. Leave them in the car if you don't think that you have control about doing this. Okay, this is extremely important. If somebody walks in snapping their gum, chewing candy, and looking at their cell phone, they're not getting the job. I'm telling you right now, not in my company anyway. I'm going to mention this, but please shower, okay? Groom yourself. A nice shower, no body odor, not too much perfume. These are all important things that I think that we all think are taken for granted. But if you want the job and you're going to be in a position where you may be in front of people, whether you're a teller at a bank or serving people in my tavern, you need to remember that how you present yourself and how you look is extremely important. And so I expect you to come to my interview with clean clothes, clean hair, simple makeup, simple jewelry. We all have individual styles, but I don't expect them to be present in an interview and on the job. I expect you to be, conservative, I guess would be a good word for that. We all have individual styles, and how we conduct ourselves at home or out with our buddies is different than how I would expect that you're going to come dressed to work. Maybe it's going to be a uniform, maybe it will be, professional clothing. So please give some clear thought on that. Make sure your clothing is clean, pressed, and well thought out for the position that you're applying for. Again, we already talked about no friends and family, which I think is extremely important. You are presenting yourself, and you don't need moral support from your buddies to be there with you, or your family. If you're mature enough to be applying for this position, then you are mature enough to show up and conduct yourself accordingly.
It's actually a great segue, because some of the stuff that Kathy talked about with regard to dress code, I'm going to talk a little bit more specific to, because it's just that important. Again, you're making your best impression when you're meeting with your potential employer. And you have 5 seconds to make a first impression. You might have heard that phrase before. Employers have many obligations and responsibilities, and they don't want to waste their time with somebody that looks like they just rolled out of bed when they're coming in to meet with them for a potential position. Let's talk about a few tips to give you a leg up when you go in for that interview. Remember that your appearance tells the employer how you see yourself. Give yourself plenty of time to get ready. Don't appear that you were rushed to get in there, or that you woke up last minute, or that you just jumped out of bed. You just want to make sure that you take some extra time when you're coming in for your interview to look presentable, to look professional. Things like your clothes, your hairstyle, your choice of accessories, makeup will either reinforce or it'll damage your chance of getting the position that you're interviewing for. Strive to dress professional without overdoing it. We're not asking girls to come in party dresses or guys to rent a tuxedo. However, there's some basic professional dress that you can wear that will give you a leg up when you come in for an interview. Here's a couple examples. Okay, so for the girls, skirts and dresses are always welcome. However, you want to make sure that if you, how should I say this, need to wear shorts underneath your dress, it's too short. So if that gives you a little bit of help with finding out what kind of length is professional. Something that always works nice is a pair of black pants or brown pants and a sweater or a black suit coat. You don't have to go out and spend a lot of money to look nice. And look at it as an investment, because if you get the job, assuming aside from places where you have to wear a uniform, you're going to need to dress professional. So make a small investment that you can wear when you go in for an interview and beyond. So for the guys, black or brown pants is great. Ideally, ones without excessive pockets is recommended. It looks great with a button-down shirt. It looks super great with a tie and a nice, clean, pressed shirt. If you can wear a shirt and tie, you're golden. All items for girls and guys should be clean and neat, as Kathy mentioned. Don't come in a wrinkled mess. Take the extra time. Ask your mom for help if you need to iron a shirt or iron a pair of pants. Again, it just lets the interviewer know that you truly value their time by taking a little bit of extra time to make yourself look presentable. Here's some big don'ts. No jeans. No shorts. Sweatpants or athletic pants are a big no-no. For the girls, no strapless clothing. Hats, I would get your hat at home. And also, if you wore a hat to the interview, hopefully you don't have a hat head. So think of those things. Tops that are too clingy or too low cut for the ladies. Flip-flops and leggings are too casual. If you would wear what you're wearing to the beach after your interview, you shouldn't be wearing it on a job interview. Here's a few extra tips. Wear basic colors, nothing too wild or crazy. Again, individual style is great. However, when you're at work, it should be professional and a little bit more conservative. Limited jewelry, minimal cologne and perfume. I've seen this more and more. A lot of people have aversions to strong scents, so it's better just to err on the side of caution and, less is more. These may seem like a few very basic tips, but I think it's worth mentioning. As Kathy had mentioned, showering is important. Brushing your teeth is very important. Make sure that you come in with clean breath, but again, no gum. Try not to have anything in your mouth. Get rid of it before you come in for your interview. This is something that we see a little bit more, and it's worth mentioning. Keep an eye on your piercings and your tattoos. Body art, again, makes you very unique. However, in a professional environment, there may be actual rules and policies against displaying certain, body art. So err on the side of caution. If you have something on your wrist, cover it up with a bracelet. Just keep it in mind. As one final note, once you're working for a company, you'll find out what is allowed and what is not. Some places are a little bit more casual, a little bit more lenient, but it's better to secure the job first and then kind of talk about that afterwards. When you're there for your interview, you should be professional and err on the side of being a little bit more conservative. All right, so now we're going to fly over to Jairo, and he's going to talk a little bit more.
Thank you. So my name is Jairo Naranjo. I am the store manager for the Reading Home Depot. I've been there for 13 years. And today what I want to do is want to talk to you a little bit about professional communication. So start with email. So if you're looking for a job, you want to have an email address that is professional. So if you don't have one, make sure that it's professional. Perhaps your name, no nicknames. So that's something that you want to make sure you're looking at is your email address. When creating an email, you want to make sure that you have a subject line and that the recipient of the email that you're spelling their name correctly. In the body of the email, you want to make sure that you are writing professionally and that you are not using any jargon or abbreviations. You want to make sure that you partner up with somebody, whether it's a mentor, somebody that can help you review the email and make sure that there is no spelling errors. And then the last thing you want to do on your email is you want to make sure that you have your signature, that you have all of your information. So again, email information is critical in making sure that it is professional. The other form of communication I want to talk about is voicemails. So if you are leaving a voicemail, you want to make sure that you are assuming that the employer doesn't have caller ID, so you want to leave a detailed voicemail. You want to leave your full name, you want to leave the purpose of why you're calling, and then you want to make sure that you are speaking in a professional manner, slow, and again, leaving details. With that in mind, when employers call you back, you want to make sure that your voice message, your voice mail is also professional. So please make sure you take that in consideration when calling employers and when you're waiting for them to call you back. So again, communication is key. Be professional and make sure that you are not using any jargon, any abbreviations. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Bob.
Thank you. I'm Bob Howard from Heritage Farm Ice Cream on Pawtucket Boulevard in Lowell. I've been there for about 40 years now. Today I want to talk about, once you get the job, how to keep it. Student jobs can be scarce. You're competing every day for these jobs, so you need to think about how you are going to keep that job. We discussed earlier about how important it is to be on time. Okay? It's a matter of minutes. You can impress your boss or disappoint your boss within a matter of 10 minutes. By being 5 minutes early, you're impressing them. You're 5 minutes late, you're disappointing them. So you need to take that into consideration. Listen carefully to instructions that you're given. Make sure that you understand them. Ask questions if you don't. There's no such thing as a stupid question at work because your boss wants to make sure that you're doing the right job. Keep a positive attitude. Everybody around you is watching, especially when you deal with the public. You're a representative of that company, so you need to put forth a very professional attitude, and friendly and courteous too. Be willing to accept constructive criticism. Bosses are going to criticize you constructively every once in a while. It's only because they're training you to try to make you the best employee that you can be for them. Keep that in mind. But you might get frustrated sometimes at work too. If you have any questions that are making you frustrated, be sure to bring them up. If a boss doesn't know what problems are going on, they can't handle them. They can't address them. So if you communicate with them, they'll be able to help you through them. Please and thank you is always important too. Be professional. You were hired, and that's because the boss made a commitment to you. So you have to make a commitment back to that job to follow through on all of these things. Responsibilities. Make sure you know what your responsibilities are. Make sure that's clear to you. Ask questions if it's not. Be willing to learn. Everybody that gets hired is going to be trained. And if you have questions during that training process, don't be afraid to bring them up. Be aware of company policies. I'm sure a lot of places have employee manuals that you're expected to read and follow. Make sure you understand them. Ask any questions that you might have about those in that process. Also, you got to keep safety in mind. Follow all the safety rules. There's plenty of them probably in every place that you work. There are OSHA and state and local laws that have to be followed. A lot of them are posted in the workplace. If you're using equipment, make sure you know how the equipment is supposed to be used. So again, ask questions. Keep your area clean and neat. There are regulations with the Board of Health that in the food industry that regulate that, so that there are reasons for it. And if you have any questions or you have any safety concerns or health concerns, just report them to the manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. So before we wrap up, we've heard from each employer who are really subject matter experts in their particular industry. We're going to share really our final thoughts about what would be important to you as a job seeker to make this entire process successful. The 2 tips that I would really recommend would be, number 1, never underestimate the importance of any job. So whether it be your first position, an entry-level position, you're always gaining valuable experience from that, and you're also building your reputation as an employee, as a candidate. So never underestimate the importance of this opportunity. Make the most of this opportunity, and by all means, be yourself. Kelly, what would you have to say?
I have a few things, a few suggestions. I would certainly say, in prep work, get to know the company that you're interviewing for. I am very impressed anytime somebody comes in and already knows some of the history, something about our vision or our mission. It just makes things a little bit clearer that you took the time to put the effort in to learning about the company. It says what type of employee you're going to be. The second is something that we really didn't discuss today, but I think it's important to mention, is be mindful of your social media. Every employer out there occasionally will hear certain things that might be on your social media. If you're going to be a representative of that company, you want to make sure that you're conducting yourself in the most appropriate manner. And that may mean all you need to do is lock down your social media. Make it private, but you need to really think about that type of thing these days. It's that important. So,
Thank you, Kelly. To segue into that, we actually have a social media policy at my company, and so when you go through the handbook, the employee handbook, you may find that there is a strict social media policy. So, just be very good. Please be mindful. My tip that I'd like to bring to the table, I guess, would be when you know why you're applying for the position that you're applying for. I cannot tell you how many people have come in and said, because my mom wants me to get a job. Well, that's not good enough for me. So if you're applying for a position, I would like to know from you why you want the position, and when you've done telling me why you really want that position, I'd like you to ask for it. I mean, you can go out and just say, I'd really like this job, and I can start now, or I'm willing to train before I get out of school, or anything that will set you apart. But to let me, as an employer, understand that you really want this job and why is a big plus for me.
That's huge. So thank you. So once you know you want that job, my biggest tip is have confidence. Go in there, shake hands, make eye contact, have confidence. Go in there with the mindset that this is your job. So I think that's the biggest thing, because first impressions go a long way.
Exactly. The best salesperson for you is you. Once you get that job, remember that your actions are what make you who you are. Bosses always realize who their best employees are. They can see what's going on. And if you're always giving you a 100%, they're always going to notice that.
Okay. Well, I want to thank each and every employer who's joined us today. So I think there's a lot of valuable information that you as students will be able to use to make this a successful job search. So again, Beatrice Sierra is available at the Greater Lowell Workforce Development Board, 978-805-4813 as a resource. We would look forward to having you join us on Thursday, April 26th from 3 to 5 p.m. in the Lowell High cafeteria. Again, remembering that all high school students are welcome. So we look forward to seeing you. Thank you.